Hello there, and welcome to the Spanish GCSE and iGCSE video tutorial. So in this tutorial, we are looking at how to prepare for the changes to the Spanish GCSE exams from 2026 onwards. So two particular exam boards, AQA and Pearson at Excel GCSE, have somewhat changed the format and syllabus for their Spanish GCSE exams for the exams from 2026 onwards. Quite a few of my students and parents, even that I work with, have expressed concerns about this, perhaps understandably too. So I've made this video to clear up any doubts and make sure you can feel confident about those exams from 2026 onwards. Firstly, though, my name is Dhananjay Talwar, and I studied French and Italian for my MA degree at the University of Cambridge. I finished that in 2015, and I've been an educator since that time, mostly a tutor. I'm really passionate about languages and language learning, something I really enjoy doing. And I've learned more than 20 languages to different levels myself, which includes at least 9 to fluency, of which Spanish is naturally one. I really enjoy language learning and probably always will. And I likewise enjoy motivating and helping my students, giving them the tools to succeed in language learning and to reach their goals while having a great time as well. And I've already done this with more than 500 different students whom I've helped to achieve or exceed their target grade for GCSE and iGCSE language exams as a full-time tutor. I have been a full-time tutor for some 6 years now, and I've taught 8 languages to GCSE or iGCSE level during that time, and several of those languages at higher levels as well. So these are the Spanish GCSE and iGCSE exam boards. Of course, you should be aware of your exam board as early as you can be, really, so that you can revise and prepare for the format and syllabus of your specific exam board. And just to illustrate that, in this video, we are talking about the changes made to 2 of the exam boards listed here, which are AQA and Pearson and Edexcel GCSE, the 2 that are in bold on this screen. So if you're a student taking AQA for GCSE Spanish or the Pearson at Excel GCSE exam board, then do carry on watching. This should be very informative and useful for you. If you're taking any of the other exam boards, though, then you do not need to watch this video because it is not so relevant for you. Exam boards can change their format or their syllabus, other details with time. So I do recommend keeping up to date with how things work for your exam board. And you can periodically check the website, for instance, of your exam board in order to do that. So, as mentioned, both AQA and Pearson at Excel, which are 2 GCSE Spanish exam boards, not iGCSE Spanish exam boards, have somewhat changed the format and syllabus for their exams for all languages from 2026 onwards. For all modern languages, I should say. And I'm going to take you through these changes in a bit more detail and show you how you can prepare, especially if you're feeling somewhat lost and unsure of what to do when faced with these new and unfamiliar tasks and potentially syllabus as well. So, what are the changes to the Spanish GCSE exams from 2026? Again, as mentioned, this only applies to those 2 exam boards, AQA and Pearson at Excel GCSE. It doesn't apply to any of the other ones for Spanish GCSE or for Spanish iGCSE. And so you only need to worry about this really if you're taking AQA or Pearson at Excel GCSE. These are the changes specifically to the syllabus. So the topic areas have been made slightly broader, slightly wider, and more flexible as well. On the other hand, there is a vocabulary list which is fixed in nature. This is a new development, something which hasn't been there before and still is not in place for the other exam boards. Although it is worth noting, actually, as well, I should mention that the Spanish iGCSE exam boards, both Pearson at Excel iGCSE and Cambridge iGCSE, have indicated that they're likely to make some change to their format and syllabus for their exams from 2027 onwards. We don't have details of that as yet, but do watch out for it, because they have announced that there are likely to be some changes. For AQA and Pearson at Excel GCSE, though, we already have some changes in place. And the good thing is that both of these exam boards have indicated on their website what those changes will consist of, and provided some sample materials for the newer tasks as well. So you still have some chance to revise and some material to use in preparation. There is going to be, as mentioned, a fixed vocabulary list for both these exam boards, which will consist of exactly 1,200 words for foundation tier for each exam board and 1,700 words for the higher tier of both exam boards. So there's a difference of 500 words between foundation and higher tier. And this is good news generally for most students. Most students would be happy about this because in listening and in reading, typically what used to happen is you could come across many words that you'd never seen or encountered before, and you'd have to try and work them out from context. That can still be a very useful skill if you're able to do that, but the vocabulary list is a lot smaller and it's more defined. It's fixed in nature. So outside of these words in the word list for foundation and higher tier, you should not see many other words come up at all. And so if you're revising for any of these exam boards, AQA or Pearson, edXL, GCSE, use the vocabulary list as a starting point when learning vocabulary, because you know that the vast majority of words that you do see will come from this vocab list. So that could be potentially a real advantage for students. There will be slight changes to the question types in the reading and listening papers as well. For example, you'd no longer be required to answer in Spanish in your listening or your reading papers. Again, that's something that I feel many students are going to be happy about. Typically, answering in Spanish tended to be the hardest questions. There are a few other changes in terms of question types as well. I believe true, false, or not mentioned questions will no longer come up for AQA or Pearson, edXL, GCSE for these exams from 2026 onwards. But again, that doesn't hugely change the exams. And many students will be quite happy about this. Okay, there are also some new elements that have been introduced into the Spanish GCSE and iGCSE papers from 2026 onwards for AQA and Pearson, edXL, GCSE. The first of these is the reading aloud task, which is part of the speaking exam for both of these exam boards. During that task, of course, you've got to read aloud some sentences. And I did a separate video specifically on how to tackle the reading aloud task. So if this applies to you, then make sure to watch that one as well. The second new element is the dictation task. That is for the listening exam, part of the listening paper. That comes right towards the end of the listening exam. And the student would hear a few sentences spoken aloud by a native speaker of Spanish, and they would have to transcribe or write down in Spanish what they hear, either the entire sentence that they hear or just specific words. So again, I've got another video, a separate video on how to approach the dictation task. So make sure to watch that if it applies to you. But these are the two new elements to prepare for AQA and Pearson, edXL, GCSE. Many students have expressed some worry that they're not sure how to prepare. For example, the website of each of the exam boards is usually the best place to start. You can get in touch if you'd like some information from me as well. But start with the website of your exam board. They do have some sample materials on there. Of course, because these tasks are newer, very new actually, there's not as much past paper material to be able to use. But I expect that over time, perhaps even over the next few months, say September, October 2025 onwards, more material is likely to be released to allow you to prepare even as best as possible for these tasks. But we do have quite clear indications of what each of these tasks will consist of. Okay, so how should you prepare for the new Spanish GCSE exams? What can you do to go in there feeling as confident as possible and not fazed by the possible lack of familiarity with these tasks? Well, the good thing is that sample materials are, of course, available on the websites of each exam board. So do use those. Make sure to maximize the benefit of them. I would typically use the most useful materials, save them until last, and use them as close to the final exams as possible. Focus on practicing the new elements. You know, for example, that the reading aloud task is new. You know that the dictation task is also new, and that these are going to take longer to revise, and they'll be tougher to practice, or they will require more practice as well. So start with tackling those. Because it's important to build up confidence and familiarity with these tasks now before it's too late. Likewise, practice sound symbol correspondences. Sound symbol correspondences refer to when there is the sounds made by letters or certain letter combinations in Spanish. For example, the fact that the letter H is not pronounced. The double L would be like a year sound in Spanish, and so on. So practicing these sound symbol correspondences can really help for these two new tasks. These new tasks have a lot to do with sound symbol correspondences. That's why they've been created. So make sure that you familiarize yourself with that. Spanish is also a phonetic language. It's written as it's pronounced, which makes these sound symbol correspondences definitely easier to remember. And you've got a vocabulary list. You've got the benefit of having that if you're studying AQA or Pearson edXL GCSE now. So start using that to revise and start learning from it relatively early as well. You know how many words there are to revise from, so give yourself enough time and plan ahead so that you can cover and make sure you get through all of those. And that you don't have any gaps in your vocabulary, because there's no excuse now if you're doing AQA or Pearson edXL GCSE in terms of vocabulary. Okay, now there's just a brief quiz to test your understanding of these new parts of the GCSE exams for Spanish and other languages for AQA and Pearson edXL GCSE from 2026 onwards. Question 1. Are there differences in the fixed vocabulary lists for foundation tier and higher tier? So are the fixed vocabulary lists exactly the same for foundation and higher tier for both of these exam boards or not? I'll give you a little bit of time to think over it. Okay, and I'm going to show you the answer. The answer is yes. There are 1,200 words exactly in the fixed vocabulary list for foundation tier, and there are 1,700 words exactly in the fixed vocabulary list for higher tier. So 500 more words for the higher tier candidates to learn, but overall it's not too bad, because you do have a fixed list to learn from. Question 2 then, true or false? The changes to the Spanish GCSE exams from 2026 only affect the AQA and Pearson edXL GCSE exam boards. Something I definitely have talked about, so try and think about whether this one is true or false. Okay, and I will show you the answer now. This is true, of course. These are the only two exam boards affected by these changes. If you're doing a different exam board, you don't need to worry about these changes at all, at least for now. And number 3, true or false, there are more limited question types for the reading and listening exams for the relevant exam boards. Have a think through that. We did mention question types for reading and listening papers. Okay, and I will show the answer to this as well. So this is also true, actually. True, false, not mentioned questions, for example, can no longer be asked in reading and listening for these exam boards, and there are no longer questions that require you to answer in Spanish. Again, I imagine many students would be rejoicing about that, because those questions requiring answers in Spanish can be pretty tough. Okay. Question number 4 then, what are sound symbol correspondences? I mentioned that towards the end. What exactly are sound symbol correspondences? What does that refer to? So I'll give you some seconds to think through this before I show the answer. Okay, and here is the answer. So sound symbol correspondence refers to the sounds that are produced by certain letters or letter combinations in a particular language, such as Spanish. Both of the new tasks for these two exam boards do focus or have a lot to do with sound symbol correspondences, so revising or working on that can be really beneficial if you're doing AQA or Pearson edXL GCSE for your Spanish from 2026 onwards. Okay, if you have questions about any of this material, or if you'd like to know about more personalized help, which I do offer as well, you can get in touch by email, via Facebook, or Instagram. And I post on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn as well every single day, sharing my love for languages with the world, making sure they're aware of it, and hopefully encouraging more and more people to learn languages. Yeah, and giving them the tools to be able to do so as well, and in fun ways too. I do post a lot about GCSE and iGCSE language exams as well, including how to maximize your grade, how to revise, how to learn vocabulary and grammar, and plenty more. So do follow me on each of those platforms. And I offer plenty of resources, including free ones, for Spanish GCSE and iGCSE students and their parents. So yeah, get in touch if you want to access any of those. I do one-to-one classes, group classes, courses, and plenty more help as well. So don't hesitate to reach out if you'd like to know more about any of that.